Hello, welcome to another episode of Talking Tennis, the first serve at the US Open. It's me, Jack, and I'm joined by Mario. How are we doing, Mario?
Hi, everything is fine, thank you. What about you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yes, it's been a pretty interesting day at the US Open, albeit maybe a few of the results could have been a little bit more exciting. But some of them were amazing, and I'm quite excited to dive into them. First things first, I think probably the most exciting one was Ben Shelton defeating Francis Tiafoe. Did you get to catch any of that, Mario?
Yeah, it's been a very entertaining battle. That's for sure. I've seen also very high quality of tennis for most of the time. So I would say that it's been pretty good to watch as a night session on the Art Rush. The most exciting match, especially in terms of the score and I mean also a lot of the rally. It's been really fine. And Ben Shelton, what a story, because at first semi-final in a Grand Slam at this year's US Open. We know that he was already in the quarterfinal of the Australian Open, and then all the troubles he had winning matches in between these two big events. But if you are able to show up really well when it matters, it's already a good sign, regardless of I would say that it's been a little bit inconsistent as a year overall, but there's also been some kind of consistent when you look at his major results, because reaching one final and one semi-final, regardless of what's going to happen from now on, we can of course judge his season in a positive way. We will watch today, for example, some player thinking about Rublev, but we have also other examples of players struggling to get to that major semi-final, and Ben Shelton finally doing it. Probably the draw was favorable, meaning that he was in the quarter, in the most open quarter. But he also faced some hell of players to reach the semis, because beating back-to-back Paul and Tiafoe, it's a difficult task. So credits to him for what he did so far in this tournament.
Absolutely. Loads of stuff to flesh out there, Mario. First and foremost, I would say beating Paul and Tiafoe back-to-back like that, he's definitely a big stage player. Yep. Right? He definitely raises his level when the crowd are behind him. I do think winning, maybe, I don't think he won 2 matches in a row once in any ATP tournament he played between the Australian and the US.
Yeah, it hasn't happened.
I do think that's a little coincidental. I do think he's finding his feet a little bit. He's not that up and down a player, right? He's just, a lot of the time his rally temperament's been found out, or it does feel a little bit coincidental that he lost that many matches. And I do think that he's not just like a god at the Grand Slams and then just okay at all the other events. I do think it will start to level out very quickly. And next year, probably we'll see a top 20. In fact, he might already be in the top 20 with a couple of results like that, probably. But he'll be flirting with the top 10 for sure. He is definitely the kind of player that could go on to do really good things with that kind of serve and that kind of flashiness to his game. I would say, saying all of that, Mario, I think the fact that this is one of his first US Opens and he's the youngster, he was the underdog in this matchup. He was playing with reckless abandon. He didn't really care, almost in some of the shots, certainly that set point in the third set where he just rifled this amazing forehand return down the line. Tiafoe wasn't playing anything like that. He looked like the one that was kind of burdened, the one that had a lot of pressure on him, the one that should have been winning the match. And it kind of ended up being Shelton's for the taking, where it's definitely not going to be Shelton's for the taking in the next match, obviously. Djokovic is going to make him play over and over.
Yeah, I totally get and agree. Before the match started, I was thinking about a 50-50 matchup, but I can understand what you say in terms of the pressure, because Tiafoe, for example, was semi-finalist last year, and so he came into the tournament with that kind of pressure. But even, for example, if we think about, Tommy Paul, a lot of people were talking about him because he played really well during the summer, getting toe-to-toe against Alcaraz, beating him once, getting a 1000 semi-final. And Shelton, probably also coming into the US Open with, let's say, no... I don't want to say no confidence, because I see that he is confident in himself and in what he does. But, with lack of victories, could have also helped him a little bit in playing more freely, trying some, some kind of great shots, and being able to do those. But I also feel that it's a big part of himself to play like that, to go for it. But at the same time, you see that it's not it's not random what he's doing on the court. So there's a lot of it's an entertaining player to watch. That's the first thing to say. But it would be not enough, in my opinion, because it also has to be said that he has a great he's a great shot making. He's great in approaching the net, for example, in that part of the game, being aggressive when it matters, putting pressure on yourself. And this is great, especially against those kind of player he faced. Would be difficult to do the same against Djokovic, in terms that probably Djokovic won't feel that same pressure in the same way the other felt. And of course, is going to enter the match as a huge underdog, I would say, because of various reasons. Especially, for example, the fact that Djokovic is playing his 13th US Open semi-final. But what to say, it's he played two amazing matches against Paul and Shelton, and Tiafoe. I really enjoyed watching them, and I think that he has the quality to stay up there. He belongs to these stages. You can feel it when he plays, for example, on the Arthur Ashe, that he can belong there.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Mario. Hi to Jane in the chat there, just giving us a little shout out, Mario, saying howdy. Let's speak a little bit about Djokovic, and then I'll give you my 2 cents on the Djokovic-Shelton matchup, Mario. The Taylor Fritz match, that's now 8-0 in the head-to-head between Djokovic and Fritz. That is 18-2 in sets. So Djokovic has won 18 sets, Fritz has won 2. The 2 coming in the Australian Open third round, and Djokovic was a little injured. That is, what was the other stat I had? 32 return games won to 14 for Fritz in the head-to-head. It is not a great matchup. And I think the reason is that Djokovic exposes movement deficiencies in Fritz that other players aren't really able to. First and foremost, getting pretty much every serve back into play. I actually think Fritz's serve compared to Fritz's serve compared to Shelton, I should say, there is a big difference that could come to fruition in the semi-final. But I'll get on to that. Point is, Fritz's serve, he normally benefits from getting a pretty decent +1, a pretty easy forehand on the next shot. Just didn't happen against Novak at any point during this match. Yeah. Got in the talking tennis notes, Djokovic not at his best to beat Fritz. He didn't have to play his best. There was no reason to go past gear, 5 out of 10. It was pretty much just average match, easy as. He was never troubled, Mario. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I would say that it's been pretty worrying to watch that. In my opinion, the set he played worse. It's been the first one, which he won 6-1, and then I think that second and third set, Djokovic played better. And Fritz, especially in the third set, tried to get into the match also with the crowd, but it's been a bit sad then to analyze that first set Djokovic won 6-1, and in the end of the match it's the set he played worse, in my opinion at least. A bit erratic, not really convinced with the serve, and still he won the set 6-1. And I was expecting something a little bit different from Cincinnati in terms. I was thinking that Fritz going into the match, having suffered that heavy defeat, 6-love, 6-4 in Cincinnati, I was thinking about him entering the match with, in a more gritty way. But you're right when you say that Djokovic is fantastic in exposing his the movement, the defensive part of the game, the athleticism, and for Fritz it becomes really, really difficult. And I was also thinking about the differences in playing, for example, Djokovic and to play, Alcaraz, which are the two best player in the world right now. And I think that Djokovic likes a lot when he can counterpunch in the matchup, which it happens, for example, against Fritz, against Sinner also, and probably for those kind of players it's less difficult to play against Alcaraz, because Alcaraz can suffer a little bit when you have that rhythm from the baseline, and he doesn't really like to do their counter punch work. In fact, Alcaraz prefers playing someone like Medvedev, which is an uncomfortable matchup, I would say, for Djokovic, for example, because it's literally the opposite way you have to approach the match against a player like Medvedev or even Zverev, for example, and a player like Fritz or Sinner, which they really have these incredible shot-making abilities from the baseline, both forehand and especially the forehand, but also with the solid backhand, really going to high rhythm baseline. But then Djokovic is, he can just enter the wall mode, which is unbeatable in making that kind of work, and so then it becomes super, super, super difficult even to win a set.
Absolutely, yeah, and especially for a player like Fritz, who isn't tested like that regularly on the tour, it does all just kind of come out in the wash when he comes up against a player like Novak. I'll finish my thoughts on the Djokovic-Shelton semi-final. I'm not sure. Am I getting a little bit of feedback through because I don't have headphones on? I might go grab some headphones just quickly, Mario, after I finish my thoughts, and then let you take the reins for a bit. So I'll let you know first. Djokovic-Shelton in a semi-final. The big question, does Shelton have a chance? I would say more so than most. There has been times in the past where big servers have gotten the better of Novak. They've ruffled his rhythm a bit, and he's struggled to raise his level because I suppose he's under a little bit more pressure to hold serve than he normally would be. He's not in every single return game. So Shelton does have a pretty good chance of, kind of coming out there again, playing with reckless abandon, playing flashy shots for a set, serving well enough for a set. I do think, though, Novak, the experience is just way too much. Way too much. He'll know how to play in the longer rallies. There are still holes in Shelton's game in the longer rallies that Novak will be able to expose in higher pressure moments. But again, I do think the fact that Shelton's actually in with a chance full stop is quite big. There's probably other semi-finalists that would have zero chance against Novak. So it could be a really exciting match. Again, just because Shelton's going to raise his level and play some crazy stuff at the pressure moments. But yeah, I still fancy Novak in 4 sets, Mario. Do you want to give us your thoughts? I'm going to just step away to get my headphones though quickly.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Yeah, no, I really agree with that. I still think that Novak will make the difference in the end, but I'm approaching that semifinal thinking that it can be a very good one and a very entertaining one, because Shelton has that ability to also shorten the rallies and to get some kind of surprise factor. His serve is also is superb these couple of weeks. So I can expect a very a good match to watch, even if I think that Djokovic in the end will prevail. I would say that I am expecting, in terms of the score, something similar to what happened for Djokovic at Wimbledon against Turkac, probably. In terms of the score, I'm meaning. And I think that Shelton has a chance, at least, to keep it close for most of the time, because I see that he has those abilities that can make him winning games. I think also bother Novak a little bit, because we also know that he is a fantastic returner, but sometimes he can get a little bit frustrated when his return game is not working as he would like. And so yeah, that's what I am expecting. That if I have to make a prediction, I would say that it can be a 5-setter. But I don't think that Djokovic is going to lose this one.
No, whatever happens. But a 5-setter, Mario, I like it. Could happen, possibly. Right, I think we've done a good preview of Djokovic Shelton. We've talked about those quarters. Shall we talk about the other 2 quarters that went on the women's side, i.e. Gauff, Ostapenko, and Mukova beating, it'll come back to me, it was somebody she beat really easily. Who was that again, Mario? Can't remember. I'll come back to me in a second. We'll talk about Gauff and Ostapenko first.
Yeah.
That's annoying me. I'm going to need to look it up. Right now, Karolina Mukova beat Sorana Cirstea, of course, the Romanian. Quite easy to forget, given Cirstea was playing her first Grand Slam quarterfinal in 14 years. It was a fair while. Let's talk about Gauff and Ostapenko. Obviously, that was a little bit of a damp squib. Ended up being 6-love, 6-2. Ostapenko taking a fair while to even get on the board. Coco Gauff, to be fair, right, first and foremost, Coco Gauff as a matchup for Ostapenko, very likely to bring out the worst in the Latvian if any player was going to do that. Ostapenko obviously has won 7 matches in a row once in her career, but it doesn't happen often because Ostapenko is, no secrets here, very up and down, right? And if Gauff, as an amazing defensive player, comes up against Ostapenko in a quarterfinal of a Grand Slam, I did think from the start, I thought it was going to go 3 sets, to be fair, because Ostapenko would still peak for a while. But Gauff was probably one of the worst matchups she could have played, for sure.
Then the match started with 20-5 in Gauff's favor. And this, even if it's weird to say, because we know that Ostapenko is amazing in reset, but this, I think that it could have entered her head, trying here to go for more and for more and for more, but it wasn't really the right day to try that kind of approach. And Gauff has been amazing in being deep with her defense, and to she's an amazing mover on the court, and we can see this on the hard court. She's great, probably I would even say the best one right now. Yeah, Ostapenko said that she had hadn't recovered pretty well, but to be honest, I think that Gauff really entered the match with the right mindset, with the right game plan, and Ostapenko went literally mad in trying to any possible way to overpower Gauff, but it wasn't just a matter of power and hitting near the lines. When you play against Gauff, I think that you need to have at least that kind of variety to mix the game plan a little bit, because she's in a comfort zone when she has to go deep with the forehand, with the backhand, and to do that kind of aggressive defensive game plan. It's literally her comfort zone, and I think that this has made a difference. And also we also know that how well Gauff is playing right now, that you have to really to pick to be able to have a chance against her. We've seen the difference in for Coco Gauff to play someone like Wozniacki and to play someone against Ostapenko. With Wozniacki, even if she's been really good in making the aggressive game for most of the time, but at times she started to suffer. She started to think a lot. Ostapenko is not giving you that time to think and to try to stay to attack, for example, with the forehand a lot of times. And so Gauff found herself in the best possible situation for her.
Yeah, I totally agree. Coco Gauff's at her best when she's able to play kind of something between aggressive and defensive. You know, she's given opportunities to counter punch from defense, but she never really has to keep attacking all the time. You know, she can let the other person overheat, and Ostapenko kind of played into that. One other thing I'd say about Ostapenko, you talked about the recovery time that Ostapenko had, and it wasn't much of a surprise that we saw the serve take a dip from the Swiatek match, because Ostapenko's serve generally has been a bit of a liability in her game. So it wasn't too surprising when she came out the next day and it went from being this high to this low, basically. And because she couldn't find that first serve, she really didn't stand much of a chance. A lot of it's confidence with Helena, and yeah, that showed in that Gauff match. Great for Gauff to get through, though. Come up against a lot of adversity this tournament, so nice of her to get a nice, easy ride in the quarterfinals, and hopefully should set us up for a very exciting semi-final. Because had Gauff went in a little tired, a little nervous, I do think we could have seen not one-way traffic from Muchova, but something definitely a little more comfortable for Muchova. And now with both players probably close to their best recovery-wise, and hopefully Gauff not feeling too nervy, we should see a very, very high-quality matchup. Words from me first, I think, Mario, and then I'll hear your thoughts on the matchup between the two women. Obviously, Cincinnati maybe wasn't the best barometer for how they're going to play. Both players were pretty tired. Muchova in particular feeling pretty shattered after some tough matches in days before. Gauff even as well wasn't at her best. She gave herself a 6 out of 10 that day in the press conference. At the same time, we learned a few things about how the rally dynamics might play out. Muchova was able to pressure Gauff's forehand a little more than other players just because she comes into the net so often. And Gauff, conversely, was very good at making Muchova overheat. She made her play a few more balls than she'd like to. Muchova generally a little better when she can play aggressive, but doesn't have to play too aggressively, to the level of like Sabalenka or Rybakina. So we did see Muchova start to spray a lot of balls. And I would say that's probably more what we're going to see in this matchup. I think Muchova will have times where she'll peak. She'll play really, really great forehands from the back of the court to pressurize Gauff's own forehand. But overall, I think it's a level I wouldn't expect her to sustain over 3 whole sets. So I do think Mukova will make it tight, but Gauff will probably take it in a very tight third set. Mario.
Well, Mukova played at a ridiculous level tonight. It's a 6-love, 6-3 match in which prevailed the high quality, the high level from Mukova. I think that the pressure will play the biggest role in the match. But I wouldn't say just for Gauff, because we know that she's in the best moment of her career so far. So now that, for example, Swiatek is out, we also have Sabalenka, but at least she is expected to make it to the final, at least from the local environment, from the local fans that maybe can, not rate Mukova as high as we rightfully do. And so she can feel that kind of pressure. And also I would say that also Mukova, because after the French Open, or having a second chance so early, it's of course super important, also because she came through a lot of injuries. So she should feel also the pressure of using one of her chances. I would say that in the end, I have a little bit of a sense that Mukova can prevail in this one, if by playing aggressive in the way she likes, maybe in a decider or something like that. I'm expecting a pretty tough battle, but I have a sense that Mukova will prevail in the end.
I like your thoughts there, Mario. There was one thing you mentioned there, though, that I would counter. I think Gauff wins because of. I think Mukova will feel a lot of pressure. I think both women will feel pressure, but Mukova just as much as Gauff. I know Gauff, it's her home slam and she wants to do well, but we have to think about the fact Mukova is getting a lot of chances to win big titles and she's not quite taking them. She's playing at a high level in all of those finals. It's not like she's, apart from the Cincinnati final, I guess she was quite tired. But a lot of the time, she's still playing a high level, but it takes its toll on you. You look at Maria Sakkari. Maria Sakkari's been in these semi-finals over and over again, and it's definitely starting to make a difference. And Mukova hasn't quite shown that she's going to, that's taken a toll yet. But I do think, she's such a good player, and she's got one title to her name. Obviously, there's been injury woes in the past, but I do feel like the fact that she has that looming, maybe she gets injured again next year, maybe these chances, they're going to be few and far between while she's playing at the best level she can. I do think even if she manages to come through the semi-final, eventually it's all going to kick in and it will be very tough to overcome the pressure. But it's tough to call this one, Mario. I agree. So you're thinking Mukova.
Basically, imagine, for example, a Sabalenka-Mukova matchup in a final, and compare the match to the French Open one they played. Probably this time, most of the pressure would be on Mukova's side, while in the French Open semi-final, I think that still was Sabalenka to carry the most of the weight of the pressure. And I totally get what you said, and it's an important factor, that's for sure, because when you especially in her situation, that she hasn't able to really came close in the past because also of a lot of injuries and all this stuff, and now that she's close, she's been close at the French Open, but even close in Cincinnati, talking about 1,000 event, which is another important stage. And right now, again, it's happening. You're absolutely right.
Sorry, I was on mute there. It will be interesting, Mario, to see what happens from here on out. Obviously, we're picking different players for the final on the top half of the draw. Do you think, though, Sabalenka is guaranteed to get through in the bottom, and I am more curious. Who do you think the winner is gonna? Do you think the winner will be from the top half, or do you think the winner will be from the bottom half on the women's side?
This is a very difficult question, but of all the things we are saying, I am still giving, even if the matches right now are all difficult, I would still give Sabalenka a slight edge in every match she's entering in. Even if, for example, we saw, Mukova beating her twice this year, both cases in tight battles, but Gauff is playing really, really well, and you can feel that this is probably her chance. I would say that Sabalenka still would enter every match right now with a slight edge over the opponent.
With that in mind, then, Mario, how would you see a Sabalenka Coco Gauff final playing out?
Would be the in some way would be the best possible final, because we're going to have the most informed player of the moment against the soon to be number one in the world. Best player of if she gets to the final, would be, she is already, but would be by far the best player of in Grand Slams this year, because the two semifinals at Wimbledon and at the French Open, the title got at the Australian Open, and the eventual final. You know, as I said, I still would think at maybe 52 for Sabalenka and 48 for Gauff. But I also know that right now Gauff's shots are going much better than it was the last times they faced off each other, and this can make a difference because Sabalenka can feel more pressure during the rally, even when serving. For example, if her first serve percentage is going to be not high as expected, she can start feeling a lot of pressure from Gauff's return, and this can probably cause her making some more double faults and trying to risk more with the second serve. Let's say that in my opinion, I still have Sabalenka with a slight edge over everyone, and so I'm sticking with this prediction. But we are really talking about slight details, and because Gauff right now is up there with the level, with all the things. She has all what it's needed to win this tournament.
Yeah, my Pegula pick has aged pretty poorly after Madison Keys went out. And then, Mario, who did you have? Did you have Sabalenka to win the title?
In my bracket, I have Sabalenka beating Gauff in the final.
Nice, okay. Well, I'll add my 2 cents now that my horse is out the race. Sabalenka on a hard court, I don't think it's coincidental that her Australian Open run is the one where she made the title compared to her French and Wimbledon runs. I do think on a hard court, the serve's a little easier to consistently get on your spots, right? And same with the return. It's easier to control the return. You know, you've not got all these funny bounces off of a natural surface. And first strike tennis, serve and return, if Sabalenka consistently make that happen, then she'll win the title. Because in Australia, she went to the final. She played one of the matches of her life. She's been there. She's done that.
She served unbelievable.
Pressure. Yeah,
she has a great serve, but I've never seen her serving like that day.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I honestly think she could do it again. I think Vondrousova is going to be, well, if she gets through Madison Keys, again, that's not a guarantee. She would prefer Keys in the semi-final. I'll say that much, Sabalenka.
I think that Keys can exploit Vondrousova if she has some physical issues. But we also know that Keys can also enter the court super erratic, and Vondrousova's ability with a lefty forehand and with her serve, she can also, this should be a tough matchup for Keys. But if Vondrousova is not 100% physically, I think that Keys can have more than a chance.
Yeah, of course. There was a possible injury scare, right? 'Cause she pulled out of the doubles with Strikova, right? Her doubles partner. So I do think maybe there's something slightly underlying. She's not pulled out of the singles, obviously, but.
What about Qingwen? Wanted to ask you about there.
Good question. I want this to be Qinwen's moment, right? But I do feel like it's not quite yet. She has had quite an easy run to the quarterfinals. She was always capable of getting quite deep in slams, but honestly, this run doesn't tell you much about the kind of player she is. We always knew she had the power to overcome a player like Jabeur, and then the other 3 rounds were pretty easy, and she still made a bit of a meal of them. She's got all the weaponry to be an amazing player, but she hasn't quite put it all together yet. So I do think Sabalenka wins this one, maybe even in straight sets. That's my thoughts, Mario.
No, I have basically the same thought about this tournament. Even if after a pretty rough season, especially in the first part, she is getting now better results, and you can feel that she has started again to grow with her game. She won finally a title, a WTA level title in Palermo on the clay, which is a surface that suits a lot her tennis, in my opinion, because she has this forehand with a lot of spin. She, in my opinion, she can be a fantastic clay court player. And then, of course, this run is still getting to a major quarterfinal is no joke. She at least shows some consistency in all the matches to win the matches she should, even if with some trouble in some moment. I'm thinking about the first 2 rounds, for example. So I would say that it's a good step also to unlock an achievement and then maybe feel a little bit less pressure in the future events. We know how much is important. For example, imagine Andrei Rublev getting into his 9th major quarterfinal, still trying to reach the first semi. I know that he always plays. For example, this year he played Djokovic twice, and now Medvedev, which is already a US Open champion. But you enter this 9th major quarterfinal and you still have no semifinal. And you must feel horrible entering the match, to be honest. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, let's use that as a little segue, Mario, as we talk about our picks for the men's quarterfinals, just to close. Hello, Narlan in the chat. We're going to talk maybe Rublev, Medvedev first. What do you think, Mario? Any chance there? Obviously, everything you're saying there, you probably think Medvedev's going to win. But does Rublev stand a chance?
No. No, I don't want to say no, because we've seen that Rublev is kind of capable to do, at least in the 2 matches he won, things that were pretty difficult to handle for Medvedev. But if we analyze those wins, the first one came in that amazing 2021 summer for Medvedev, but there was a little bit of drama going between Medvedev, the camera. His level went down quite a lot in a bit of inexplicable way. And then the ATP finals, probably the worst version of Medvedev in the last 4 or 5 years, and Medvedev has been really, really close to win that one as well. So I'm expecting, I'm not expecting not even a 5-setter, to be honest. Even if I have great praise for Rublev, his qualities, his the way he works and the way he keeps having consistent results on tour, and she is high in the ranking also for that. She's just one win away from the 4th spot in the ranking. Which he would be if he beats Medvedev today and reaches the semifinal. But I still think that that Medvedev should prevail, and if he starts the match like he did against Deminor, I think that Rublev will be able and should be able to take advantage of that and steal the set. But I still think that if Medvedev plays higher than 70-75% of his level, he should win with not many issues this one.
Yep, I think that's absolutely fair, and agree with everything you've said there, Mario. Probably going to be 4 at the most, 4 sets for Medvedev. I just wanted to say very quickly, the matchup between Medvedev and Rublev from juniors. Have you ever heard that story, Mario?
Yeah.
Rublev, yeah. I'll read a little excerpt of it before we move on. Rublev said that they used to play 3-4 game sets and played for about 4 hours. So obviously he said it was like 10 minutes a rally, basically. They were lobbing each other. That would go on for about 3 minutes of lobbing and moonballing before they'd throw their rackets and cry. Then they'd play another point for 10 minutes and Medvedev would start screaming at everybody that he saw. It's a very funny story that just sounds like the two of them were brought out the worst and the best in each other because they were like best friends. But when they took to the court, it was apparently.
Yeah, of course. And it should be, because if it's not like that, they wouldn't be both so high in the ranking, far in these tournaments. You have to be to have that hunger. If not, it becomes impossible to to get to these results. So exactly. When you step on court, it's basically impossible to think about other things than just winning the match and beating the opponent. But I like that thing about Medvedev, that even when he enters his mode and starts saying his infamous quotes and he starts to get nervous, something like that, you can still feel that he feels a lot of respect for all the opponents. We saw that beef against Tsitsipas that went in the earlier years, but overall he still is, even if he with his moments of frustration and when he's complaining about something, and he still remains respectful of the opponent, and I really like this. Because he can be true to himself, the way he is, to his personality, but still not getting past that line of getting disrespectful towards the opponent, which is for me a very important thing in tennis.
Yeah, good way of framing it, Mario. That's very true about how Medvedev, and same for Rublev as well, who obviously has his moments on court. Hello to Srihiri and Jeffro in the chat, by the way, just giving us a little shout out there, Mario. I think we'll close on Alcaraz Zverev just before we close up shop. Mario, who do you think's winning that? Does Zverev have a chance? Obviously, the head-to-head is 3-2 in favour of Zverev. He did win their only other Grand Slam meeting at the French Open, of course, last year. I do think it's a better matchup for Zverev than it is for most, because he is able to kind of camp a little bit and go big on the backhand just to trouble Alcaraz a bit. But I do think Alcaraz, even since the French Open last year, has developed as a player. I do think Zverev will give him, as you say earlier on, Mario, as you said earlier on, Zverev will give Alcaraz the opportunity to play aggressive, right? And I do think that will play into Alcaraz's hands. And even if it's close, it should be Alcaraz to win. Do you feel the same way, Mario?
Yeah, I still would say that I'm not expecting anything similar to that Madrid match. To be fair, I am expecting a tougher battle than that one was, because Zverev improved his condition, his confidence in his game a lot through that moment. Yeah, I would say that even if probably this is not as uncomfortable as, for example, it is for Medvedev as a matchup, but still Zverev can suffer if he makes Alcaraz do a lot. For example, that French Open meeting, Alcaraz felt too much the pressure. He was doing the game, being aggressive, but he was mistaking a lot, especially at the beginning. And Zverev took advantage of this, also, let's say, lack of experience of how managing the pressure on that on those big stages. And so the first two sets, he really made Alcaraz missing a lot of balls and took advantage of that. So I'm expecting, well, let's say that I'm expecting something similar to that match, but the opposite in terms of the score. So I'm expecting a 4-set win for Alcaraz, because I think that Zverev will play at a quite good level, because he's showing great consistency and a very good level in this last few months. But I still think that in the crucial moments of the match, Alcaraz will be able to make something more, to take himself the responsibility to do something more. And usually he likes when he is able to do that, which is not against every player. And this is why, for example, some players are uncomfortable for him to face. I think that Zverev can be beatable from that point of view by Alcaraz.
Yeah, I'll close with just a little stat on Alexander Zverev just before we finish. Do keep in mind, this is the same player that played 13 top 10 players at Grand Slams and lost all 13 matches. Before he beat Alcaraz at the French, he won a second against Sinner a couple of days ago. I do think that in 5 sets over the long haul, Zverev's weaknesses do tend to come out a little more than in best of 3, when he can, kind of cover up his second serve, where he can maybe play a little bit more aggressive for a shorter period of time. I do think in 5 sets, Alcaraz is definitely the safer bet, and will be able to expose Zverev's second serve, which we've seen kind of get pulled apart in the bigger matches.
Yeah, but I would also say that let's say that Zverev also had a lot of issues in handling the pressure at the beginning of his career, to be like one of the chosen player to make this generational change. And in the Grand Slams, he had a lot of issues from that point of view, which of course he's not having anymore, because all the tennis world changed a lot from that point. Zverev was feeling too physically in that match against Sinner, but for me it would also depend from the conditions of play. If the condition would be that humid and that brutal as it was in the match against Sinner, I would say that it would be an advantage for Alcaraz. But I still think that even if Zverev was feeling and making you feeling that he was feeling the tiredness. I think that he was physically quite fine, to be honest. In that fifth set against Sinner. I would say that the tactical point of view will be more important than the physical one, at least if he has recovered properly from the match against Sinner. But I would think yes, to be honest.
Okay. And if tactical is the way you're going, Mario, I still think Alcaraz should have the advantage in maybe 4 tight sets. Definitely. On that note, Mario, I think we'll close there, right? That was a good episode. Thanks very much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. I always like to talk to you, so it's a great pleasure, and thank you to everyone who listened.
Yeah, thanks everybody in the chat as always. This has been Talking Tennis. Catch everybody very soon.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.